Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar video. In this one I want to talk about the Avatar Magic the Gathering pre-release I went to yesterday. So I went to the one on Saturday at midday 12 and yeah, I had a pretty good time overall, like successful. I got my kit, participated in the pre-release tournament, got my hands on cards kind of early, of course, because the set still isn't like officially out until the 21st. And yeah, it was really cool overall. So I just want to talk about the experience, kind of show off some of the cards I got, kind of talk about the games, kind of how it went and stuff like that. Because yeah, it was cool to have the experience of, like, you know, part of this one is like you build a deck from the cards you open. So like you have to deck build and then go straight into a kind of, you know, more casual tournament, but still like a tournament and stuff like that. So overall, it was a 4-round tournament. So you had like an hour to deck build, and then it was 4 rounds, randomly assigned matches, where you would play best of 3. So from my 4 rounds, I won 2, drew 1, and lost 1. And overall, I came 6th place out of 18/20. I think 2 people maybe didn't show up or something like that, but either way, like 6th out of 18 or 20. Prizes for the top 4, so I just missed out on that, but I was still really happy with kind of how I did overall, because it was my first time attending one of these, a Magic event, kind of like in person. Most of my other play had been kind of like online type stuff, so that was nice. And it was just like, hey, I do actually know how to play Magic the Gathering. Like, oh, I actually won some games. That was actually kind of cool. I know how to actually build a deck, kind of proving that. It was kind of nice. Let's just kind of talk through the experience overall, I guess. Just, I suppose, real quick, kind of overall. Maybe the only slight negative was just like, it was a sort of long day in a way, because like it started at 12, it ended like just before 5. And apart from maybe like one of the rounds where the round I lost, I actually lost my 2 games quite quickly, so I lost 2-0 pretty quick. And then even then, we played another match for fun, and there was still a little bit of waiting around there. Most of the games did kind of go to time, so it was pretty like active for all of the 5 hours, because like you want to take the time putting your deck together for the first hour and just, you know, opening up the packs kind of slowly type thing. But yeah, longish event. I suppose there's no real way around that, because you have to give time for the matches to play out and stuff like that. But you know, that's just that. You know, in a way, like it maybe would have been a bit better just like 3 rounds or something like that. Maybe they wanted to more distinctly kind of determine who won, whereas maybe if there was only 3 rounds, there would have been a lot of people coming like joint third or something like that. But anyway, so yeah, when I arrived, you get to choose which pre-release kit you got. So you can see here I got the Aang one, which is the white colored kit. There is also Katara for blue, Zuko for red, Toph for green, and Azula for black. They're your choices. So I got Aang. I arrived like just a few minutes before the event was meant to start, so I only had a choice between, I think, white, blue, or red. So either way, I was happy. I was going to go for white or green anyway, so I'm glad I got white. But yeah, this is a pre-release kit. You can see here it's just about the height of a pack, which is kind of interesting. It's a smallish kind of like little item here, but there's a lot in it, of course. So yeah, really cool to see the art continues around to the back. You can see the Southern Air Temple there. Just kind of yellow kind of type stuff. The side of it's cool, the kind of like pull tab to open it. It was like an airbender kind of arrow kind of tattoo, and you kind of rip it down. And then you can see there is a quote on the side, "Will you go penguin sledding with me?" It's really nicely put together. You can see the effort that kind of goes into it. But it's really cool because like you open it up then, and it's not just like outer packaging to get to like what's inside. Like what's inside is like a deck box that has your stuff in it. But like even the outer packaging is nice, because you can see there's some kind of graphics for Avatar in it. There's Aang, everything's connected. There's a bunch of punch outs to get some tokens and stuff like that if you maybe don't have your own. That's kind of nice. It's just like, hey, it's not just random packaging waste. It's somewhat usable. And then all your stuff is actually in the deck box. So like they give you a deck box if you didn't bring your own. So it does mean that like the only thing that you kind of need to buy there or like bring yourself is card sleeves. But because most of these events are at stores, they're readily available, of course. And then yeah, inside what you get here is right at the top, you'll probably see your dice first, your spin down counter, which you can use to track your life because it goes up to 20 and then you kind of count it down, which is nice. These are kind of color coded for the box. So this is yellow and it's the different color for the other ones, of course. And then yeah, you get 5 play booster packs. So that's just your kind of standard booster pack here, play boosters, like you get in a lot of the other products. But your 6th pack is a seeded pack of the color of the pack that you chose. So in this case, I got the kind of special Ang pack, which was basically all white, but it also has your promo card for the pre-release in it as well. So it just means that your deck building process is a lot easier because realistically, depending on what box you choose, you're going to be that color plus another color from your packs. And it opens up the opportunity to do monocolor if you really, really wanted to and you kind of pulled well, that sort of thing. So, what did I get? What deck did I end up kind of going with? So the deck I eventually ended up doing for sealed for the event was it was white-blue. So I went, white-blue, mostly white. It's like 2/3 white, about 1/3 blue. Just because I actually felt like I actually got quite a nice amount of white cards in the pack that the seeded pack. And then that was added to, I think, pretty nicely with what I got from the rest of the stuff. I think by the end, because I actually did somewhat well in the event, I think I built the deck pretty well. The only thing I felt like I was probably missing was just kind of like maybe straight up like outright removal. Like it has airbending in it, of course, because it's not just white-blue flyers. It's like it also has a somewhat decent amount of airbending, that sort of thing. So yeah, because I chose the white pack, you get a guaranteed like card of the character. So for white, you always get this uncommon Ang, the last airbender, which is really nice. You know, it's just 4 mana for a 3/2 flyer, and when he enters, you airbend a target non-land permanent. And when you cast a lesson, he gains lifelink. That didn't come up too much for me. Did I even have any lessons in my deck? If there's one, yeah, I'm pretty sure I only had the one lesson in my deck, so that didn't ever really come up for me. Because yeah, a lot of my cards were permanent, and a lot of my instants were just kind of like white, kind of more combat-y style tricks, which, like I said, was maybe the one weakness that my deck actually had, was that sometimes it was difficult to just remove a threat from the board. But otherwise, like I think it worked quite well, what I was trying to do with my deck, which was mostly to lean into, okay, flyers, because I did get Air Nomad Legacy, which is the signpost uncommon for this color pairing, where it boosts flyers, you get a clue token, and then I did actually get a decent amount of flyers, including stuff like, say, like I got the Benevolent River Spirit, which was a nice kind of blue uncommon. It's the Painted Lady, basically, 4/5 flyer. Kind of high mana cost, but you can reduce it because it had part of the cost is waterbending. That came in handy in a couple of my games. The Glider Staff was quite nice. I never actually got to equip this to anything, but just the fact that it had the when it enters airbend was nice. Like it was effectively almost like a sorcery kind of airbend for me most of the time when I used it. And airbending actually was pretty nice a lot of the time. Sure, they could get it back, but they had to kind of slightly mess up their next turn to get something back, and that did slow them down. And then it clears the board during your turn as well, which is pretty nice as well. But yeah, you know, I had the Cat Owl as well. I didn't get to use this too much, partly because it comes in at 4 mana. Whereas a lot of the limited environment for this, like sealed, is more about like 2-3 drop stuff overall. I did actually have two Aang the Last Airbenders. I opened one from my packs as well, so that was really nice leaning into that. Um, Path to Redemption ended up being quite a nice way to quote unquote remove something from the board or just make it kind of unusable. Taking it out of combat was nice, especially because my deck was flyers, which is already kind of evasive. This helped to kind of sometimes just get rid of their one thing that could fly or their one thing with reach. That was kind of an annoying kind of thing for them to deal with. And then I did have a couple of other rares. I got a Momo Friendly Flyer in my deck. Got to use it, especially in some of the later games, in like round 4. I got to use this to reduce the cost of my flyers a bit, so that was quite handy. And yeah, Ty Lee Chi Blocker. She didn't come up in a lot of my later games, but she did actually come up in a lot of my early games. I actually drew her quite a lot. And her ability to just tap something down that your opponent had for like almost the whole game in some cases was just really good if they couldn't get rid of Ty Lee. Which, you know, once you bring her down and don't like attack with her, they have to hit her with a removal spell. And I think only like one opponent actually did that. So, you know, Ty Lee was actually really nice just with that ability. So I was quite happy with that. I also I had this in my kind of rarer card section, but yeah, I did pull the mythic rare Legend of Yang Chen, the double-sided mythic, and I did have this in my deck. Again, didn't come up for most of my really early games, and then like towards the end I drew it once or twice and I didn't get a chance to use it, and then literally last 2 games of the day got it and was able to use it, and helped me to win those last 2 games as well, to get the win in round 4, including the very last game. I did get to flip the card around into Avatar Yang Chen. Didn't get to use her effect in that form, but just having the other extra flyer on the board was pretty nice. In terms of my other pulls, my promo card, because again, you in your seeded pack, you obviously get your pack of all cards of that color. You do also get just a rare or mythic rare with the promo stamp on it. My one was Sokka Bold Boomeranger. So you can see the foil stamp there in the kind of corner. Yeah. So that's what one of these promos is. Every rare and mythic is available in this form. It's up to you if you consider this something that you need to collect, having them all in foil promo as well as just general foil and non-foil. But that's that. I got one other mythic rare, Fated Firepower, which was kind of cool. I actually pulled Legend of Yang Chen and Fated Firepower from the same pack. So I think Fated Firepower was a wild card that ended up being a mythic rare for me, so that was kind of nice. And then my probably highest rarity card overall was I did get the Elemental Frame Earth King, which was cool. I considered for a moment, like, do I want to play like maybe white green to use this? But I felt like I got the key parts of the flyer deck, because I had some of the flyers in white, some of them in blue. I got the Signpost Uncommon. I actually got the kind of double land, the one that taps for white and blue, the North Pole Gates. I just felt like, yeah, it's not perfect, but it's, I think, the most clear-cut strategy, and I think it worked out kind of quite well overall. Because I think some of my opponents did note that, like, oh, that's actually like a pretty kind of clean, the flyer strategy that's in the set, and that's what my deck kind of was. So that was cool. And then some of the other rares, I got Earthen Ally. I got the participation pack for staying for the full event. I got an extra pack. I got Avatar Destiny, which I was really happy to get because it's such a cool, flavorful card. Bei Fong's Bounty Hunter, so Master Yu and Xin Fu there. This was a fun one as well. Boiling Rock Rioter, Chit Sang, got him. So yeah, that's definitely fun. And then Otherwise, what else do I want to talk about from what I pulled? Like, a lot of the token cards are actually kind of cool when you open them, because they're kind of, they feel maybe a little bit more full art, like especially like the kind of ally tokens and clue tokens are kind of fun extras in the pack. Just to see the art on them, like, you know, Clue, Katara's necklace. Um, if you hadn't maybe seen some of them, like the Clue Appa Wanted poster, they're kind of nice. Um, from the extra pack, I got Airbending Lesson, which would have been actually a really good card to have in my actual pool. I could have put into my deck, but I got it like obviously after the event came to an end. But still, this is nice. Just instant. It is a lesson. 3 mana airbend something, and you draw a card. That's cool. And then yeah, there's a few other white cards that like I considered. Like I kind of wanted to fit Fancy Footwork in, but I felt like, am I gonna get that to work because I want to untap stuff? Team Avatar was another one I considered, but I think in reflection, this probably wasn't the deck for that. Rest of my blue cards weren't exactly what I wanted. Like I could have put this in, perhaps the Geyser Leaper, but it's 5 mana, so I didn't really go for that. I did pull Heibai, which made me think about white black for a little bit, but nah. And then yeah, I got a couple of the other signpost kind of uncommons. The Foggy Swamp Spirit Keeper, Hermetic Herbalist, Bitter Work for those color combos, but none of them involved white, of course. My black pool wasn't great, so that I think it was always going to rule out black being involved. Same goes for red for the most part. I got some nice stuff like Zhong Zhong. Got that used against me a couple of times. I did get Lightning Strike, which is a pretty nice common, just like 2 mana, deal 3 damage. The sort of thing I felt like I could have almost used in my own deck at certain times. Green was, I think, the best other than white that I got, and I could have used that to my advantage. Interestingly, I would say the most frustrating card I went up against all day was actually probably the few times people dropped Wall-Top Sentries on me. Mainly just because it's like Reach and Death Touch meant that like, ooh, my nice flyers can't attack comfortably with that in play. And because of that, I had no massive way to remove it, because even with airbending, my opponents knew that like, I'll just recast it because this is the counter to your deck doing all flying and stuff like that. So that was the one challenging thing that I could have done with, like, yeah, I wish I had a little bit more permanent removal or something like that. But yeah, that's that situation. So yeah, I'll just quickly talk through kind of the way the games went. I'll try not to go into kind of crazy detail on this. Round one, my opponent was playing a kind of weird kind of 3-color thing. I get the impression they kind of maybe splashed in the 3rd color. I think it was like green, red, and white, but I didn't really see much white. So I'm guessing they tried to play Toph the First Metal Bender, but I didn't see it in their deck in either game. And I think maybe that might have been part of why I ended up kind of winning, because I maybe focused my deck a little bit more. The first game of the match was interesting because we both had to mulligan multiple times. I think it was 3 times each. So we both started the game with like 4 cards in hand, because after each mulligan you actually have to like put a card back into your deck basically. So we kind of both started with very limited hands, and I think I just ended up having a nice enough kind of curve from that point on that like I was able to just slightly take advantage by my deck having kind of quite a lot of flyers, a little bit of airbending stuff to just clear the way, and I just kind of edged it out basically in terms of the race to deal damage basically as combat went back and forth. Second game was a little bit clearer because I don't think any of us had to mulligan really all that much. In this one, again, ended up I think going relatively similarly to the first game, where it was just kind of mostly us kind of like swinging kind of past each other and then navigating the more complicated kind of combats. What ended up, I think, winning me the game, I think, in the end here, was that I think this was the first time I cast Benevolent River Spirit. And it was a sort of complicated one because she requires 2 blue mana, but by the time I was casting her, I only had 1 blue mana, 1 island on the board. So I had to use barrels of blasting jelly to filter one of my mana into blue. And then I think I did a kind of complicated water bending thing where I like tapped like 3 or 4 of my creatures to get her onto the board. And I think after that I was able to kind of overwhelm with, like, because this is pretty big in the air. And we just went from there. Because the Scry 2 on her also, I think, is quite good as well to set up the next turns as well. So I just kind of won with kind of, in a way, like how solidly built my deck kind of was. And I think they kind of didn't really hit what their deck was trying to do, never fully, I think, maybe came to pass. So yeah, I won the first game 2-0 across the games. Round 2, I was up against someone playing, I think it was pretty much red-green earthbending, but it wasn't really leaning into the 4 power kind of stuff. It seemed to mostly be like almost like mono green earthbending with just a select few red cards. Which I would say is probably similar to the way my deck was, which is it's kind of mono white with a select few blue cards for flyers, and in his case it was like a select few red cards to give like reach to block flyers, and I think assist with kind of card draw and have like a few more maybe damage dealing spells, but it was very, very earthbending focused. So this is where I really got to see that mechanic actually used a lot. The way this one went, this was the game I drew. So game 1, I think I won. What ended up happening here? I'm pretty sure, yeah, I just ended up like, I think I drew into a couple of my flyers, got through a decent amount of damage. He got some earthbending going, but by the time he got to his kind of like reach blockers to actually block my stuff in the air, I just done like a little bit too much damage. And then I think I played Air Nomad Legacy, I think a little later on in the game, and that kind of, I think, just pushed me over the edge. I think that's how that game went. Game 2, I lost this game, and I think it was sort of just the same in reverse, where like his deck just went off a little bit more, my one didn't quite go off as much. And yeah, he had the Badger Mole Cub Mythic Rare, and yeah, he was just able to generate enough mana there to just do all the earthbending he wanted, and just got some of his lands really big. I think Toph came in, and she didn't get crazy big, but got big enough to where, like, yeah, I just took way too much damage. And that's how that one went. Then, of course, because this one ended in a draw, this means that game 3 ended in a draw, which was that I think we were both a little bit more cautious about combat because of how the first 2 games had went. So our board kind of got really like wide. Like, I think he ended up with like 3 or 4 earthbend creatures on board. He had the Toph, the uncommon Toph from the green selection on board, and I think like 1 or 2 I think like Yuyan Archers was the main, I think, reach creature I came up against quite a lot. And then I think the wall top sentry came into play in this game as well. That was kind of tricky to deal with. So he like, I think he might have side decked 1 or 2 cards in to counter this, but I forget. But yeah, it was just kind of messy because we both had a bunch of stuff on the board, and we were also running out of time. This was the only game that I had that really went to time, like overtime. And the board state was complicated enough to where I think we just kind of agreed that, like, I don't think any of us can clearly see which way this is going, like, exactly. And it would take each of us on our turns probably like a good like minute or two to assess what way we should do attacks, what way blocking should be done. That we just thought it would be just fairer to accept the draw. Otherwise we'd be there all day trying to sort out the combat, because already like the turns before we agreed on the draw, I think we were both kind of just like almost like rapid fire, just I'll attack with 3 creatures, I'll block with 2, and it was a bit like not really thinking about kind of the end of the game. So I think the draw was the kind of fairest thing, because yeah, both of our decks kind of did what they wanted to do. My flyers worked in one game, his earthbending stuff worked in the other, and then they were both kind of working in the last game. So it was probably the fair kind of result overall. But it was a fun game. So that was that one. Round three was the one I lost. I lost 2-0. My opponent was playing, what was it? It was like black, green, and red, I think, like a little bit of red. I think it was mostly black, green, and then yeah, there was a bit of red. And yeah, with this one, yeah, I lost the two games relatively quickly. I wouldn't say I got like absolutely like smashed or anything like that. It was just, yeah, this one's not going in my favor. He just kind of drew into some kind of kill spells at the right moment. The one or two times I made maybe a bigger play, it got countered. Like again, I did a fancy play to cast this, which I felt like could have like turned things in my favor, but he was immediately able to put the Path to Redemption on it, so I couldn't attack or block with it, and yeah, I lost. I think that was the first game. The second game I think was a little bit closer, but I think he got the Earth King on the board. The Bosco token got out. I think I airbent to kind of come back into the game a little bit. But then he recast, I think, the Earth King, so we got another Bosco token, and then there was just a bit too much damage going on. I think I held on for a little bit longer because I was able to... what was one of the cards in my deck? It was... Sandbender's Storm. Was able to kind of kill one of them. I think that saved me a turn. I was able to do some kind of tapping stuff to stop for a little bit. But, like, he was using the uncommon Azula because I guess he had a black pool. Black pre-release kit, and yeah, the clue tokens just got him the card draw. That I think that Azula has 4 power, so like that was quite challenging. He made, I think, pretty good use of the Tundra tank in the first game, and then I think he used the drill actually in the second game. And those two vehicles were actually like pretty difficult to deal with because I'd almost forgotten that, like, yeah, that's the way vehicles work. It's they remain a creature until end of turn. So, like, for when it comes to airbending them, like, unless you can do like instant speed removal while they are actually a creature, those were actually kind of tricky to deal with. And the crew costs on the vehicles is pretty small, so like it's actually like it was very easy to just like put creatures out and attack in with the big fours quite early on in the game. So and that was also where I think firebending was most heavily used against me to just gain advantage. It just felt like, okay, that person clearly knew what they were doing with their deck, because it was interesting. Just the combination of cards was not something I expected. So yeah, I lost that one pretty comfortably, 2-0. And then round 4, the last round, I had probably my worst game ever in the first game, which was that he kept his hand. I mulliganed once because my first hand was just bad. It was really bad. I think it was 1 land and 4 or 5 drops all across my hand. Just nothing I could do. I had to get rid of it. I then drew a second hand of 1 land, but this time it was actually all 2 and 3 drops. So I was kind of like, okay, the format of like a sealed deck is such that like unless you are playing against like a very specific deck, like I would say like white red, you could pretty comfortably like not do too much in the first couple of turns and be able to just interact like after that. So I was kind of like, with this hand, I'm sure to draw into a land after, 1 or 2 turns and I can get going. I just didn't. I had 1 land for the first, what was it, like 5-6 turns? I think it was on like turn 5 or 6. I finally drew the second land, and I was able to play my 2 drops and at least start to actually play the game a little bit. This game was actually cool because this is where Momo came into play, because it's 1 mana. So I was able to get this onto the board at least somewhat early on. But then the cost reduction on flyers was nice because when I had 2 mana, I was able to bring the 3 mana things onto the board. And then when I finally got my third land, I was actually able to bring the 4 cost Ang onto the board and kind of get back into it. But I still lost the game because, you can't not do anything for basically the first like 4 or 5 turns of the game. But I knew I was in with a chance in the game because of, in a way, like how long it took my opponent to finish me off, and how actually I sort of made a comeback in that game. And then I got much better hands in game 2 and 3 and was able to I wouldn't say super comfortably, because game 2 I thought was quite back and forth overall, but then I eventually kind of took over. I think again I got Momo on the board, but I had more mana to use, so I was able to kind of take over with the flyers a little bit. The last 2 games I got to use Legacy of Yang Chen for the first time, so the first effect to just exile something was really strong. So I was able to cast this at like the perfect time to really frustrate the board that they had. I think I also cast the Glider Staff at the right time to get the airbending, which was frustrating. And this was the one where I think my deck just kind of like functioned the best, where like it did all the things that like I kind of constructed it to do, where it was just like pretty early, like Path to Redemption on one of their creatures. I think at some point a Rowdy Snowball did something. I think Ty Lee was about the only thing I didn't really get to use in those last 2 games. And so, because it was mostly like a non-creatures deck, because it was blue-red, I was just doing stuff to most of the creatures, and so my flyers were able to get through, and I won game 2. Game 3 was a little bit closer, but again, it went, I think, pretty similarly. I got like Path to Redemption at the right time. I also cast Legacy of Yang Chen, but this time I was actually able to transform her. Didn't get to use her second effect, but I did win the game because I just had enough flyers on the board to get past the blockers that were in play there. So that's roughly how the games overall went. Finished, like I said, 6th out of 18. Just missed out on the prizes, but everyone got like at least 1 extra pack for staying for the end of the event. And so that was it. It was cool. Afterwards, I kind of went into the store to see like, hey, what products do they have? Because of course, like if your local game store is like a WPN store, which it was, they sell the stuff on pre-release week. So they just had some of the stuff. So I was able to get the Day of Black Sun, the Black Sun Invasion scene box. So I got that, and I also got the beginner box. So I'm not going to go through them here overall. I will make kind of separate videos. I definitely want to make one on the beginner box because I think it's a really cool product that I think is good for beginners, and that's a lot of the content I'm doing on the Avatar set is for beginners. And then I already opened the scene box. I'm more going to do a video on both scene boxes when the other one, which I've ordered somewhere else, arrives. And then I could show off the kind of actual cards from that when we get there. Otherwise, I don't actually think they had much else. I think they had a few individual packs, like they had like an open booster box you could buy stuff from. But I think they didn't have any booster boxes for sale because I went to the Saturday pre-release, so I think they'd already done one on Friday, and I think a lot of the big stuff had already sold out. So there was no bundles left. There was no Commander bundles, I guess no boxes, and pretty sure no collector booster boxes or anything like that either. So speaks to how popular it was overall, and I think just in general, like I probably noticed this maybe the most when everyone was given their pre-release kit and they sat down to open the packs. I kind of got a sense from the reaction in the room as the different groups people were opening them together and stuff like that. That okay, yeah, this was a well-regarded set. Like some of my opponents after in between games, after games we were speaking, and yeah, it people like this set, even though I think Magic players don't overly like Universes Beyond massively. This one was done so well, and it works so well for Magic that it kind of almost like countered that general frustration with Universes Beyond. It seemed like Avatar, it was interesting to see a lot of Avatar fans in Ireland actually, which I wouldn't typically say like the show is like super popular here overall, but it was interesting to see that like actually I think I got the impression most people in the room were familiar with the show. I think there was maybe a couple of people there who were just like, this is the new Magic set, I'm here because I like Magic, and maybe didn't know Avatar as much. But certainly there was a decent amount of discussion of people being like, oh, this card, this animal's in the set, people making this reference to this thing and so on. Lot of talk about the walls of Boston say. I think one person pulled that card and used it in their deck. That sort of thing. That was the kind of exciting part about it. It was just like, oh hey, like people really do like Avatar, which I had not really seen too much kind of myself these days, because I often think like, ooh, I'm an Irish Avatar fan. That feels like a little bit of a kind of rare thing almost. But no, a lot of people have seen the show, and it gives the impression that like, okay, if the Magic set's gonna bring people back, get people excited again, like imagine what new content actually coming out next year is actually going to do. That's the thing that I really took from this overall. But also that I think this set's going to do really well. We'll see how it does in comparison to Final Fantasy. I think the only kind of maybe counterpoint there is just that I'm not sure there's as many kind of crazy chase cards in this set. There is of course the Brian Konietzko Aang, and then the 4 Neon Ink Battle Post cards. And they're going to be like the far and away the expensive ones from the set, but everything else I don't think is actually going to be super expensive. So that's where we're at this point. So I'm going to wrap it up there in terms of just my thoughts on the pre-release overall. In terms of other videos, like I said, I'll be doing a bunch more. So I will be doing at some point, hopefully, during the week, I'll be doing a how to play Magic the Gathering video now that I actually have Avatar cards in hand. I do want to do that. And then once my other stuff comes in, I will be doing videos. Like when my booster box comes in, I'll open that. Jumpstart booster box, I'll open that. The boost commander bundle, the bundle. And then when the scene box comes in, I'll do that as well. And then I'm a little bit unsure about it because the place I ordered the Jasmine Dragon scene box from, I also ordered like another pre-release kit. They said they were a bit unsure about if they'd actually have the stock for the pre-release kit, so I may or may not have another pre-release kit. If I do get one, I might be doing a video where like I kind of open it, of course, just show you what I got in the packs, but then like build a deck and kind of do a bit of a like pre-release just in the video to show you kind of more specifically what it was like here, because I already did the deck building experience at the event, but it would be nice to do one on video. But yeah, and then also Magic Arena, the set launches actually on the 18th on Magic Arena digitally, so be aware of that too. I will probably also be doing some content on there, like in terms of drafts, sealed. We'll have to wait and see what the full situation is. But yeah, I'll have a lot more Avatar stuff coming up, along with just usual stuff as well, because Bending Academy Lighted Up is coming out soon, and I will be doing a bunch of videos on that as well. So I'll try and get that all out. It's just a matter of like organizing it when stuff arrives, that sort of thing. But otherwise, yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.